Hello, everyone, and welcome into this episode of the Bear Down Buzz podcast. Myself, Eli Grimes, I am back from other engagements that I had going on. As always, joining me, Isaac and Joe. Fellas, thanks for taking over in my absence. Much appreciated. You guys did a heck of a job, and hopefully everyone enjoyed you too, running solo without me for 1 week. But it is rivalry week. It is Packers week. We really haven't been discussing it much this week because it's just been a bevy of news within this Bears organization, but we will get into that much later. First, we will start it off as always. Joe, a brief overview of some key players on the injury report for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, so for the Bears this week, Montez Sweat is again on the injury report. He didn't practice on Wednesday. He was limited today. Done all right. With his knee injury has been limited both days. Braxton Jones with his knee has been limited both days. Tevin Jenkins has not practiced this week with an ankle injury. And then Brisker, he got moved to IR today because of the concussion. Uh, it has to be more than a concussion at this point because A, he's been out for 5 weeks, and B, he's in he's on the IR, which I feel like even if I know Tua went to the IR with a concussion, but that's different. He's had like 4 or 5 concussions in 2 years. This is Brisker's third, but still, I feel like they must have thought he would be back sooner, or they would have put him on IR sooner. So this has to be more than a concussion. I feel like. And for the other injuries, I just hope that Darnell Wright and Braxton can both play this week because the Packers D line is really good. Well, I don't know if I would say they're really good, but they're good. They have uh like 24 sacks this year. So as a defense, so we need all line help we can get. Um, yeah, I'll pass it over to Isaac. How do you feel about these injuries? Which, yeah,
Yeah, definitely having Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones back would be huge on Sunday. But to highlight the Jaquan Brisker injury, I think this is the first time I've seen where a player has a concussion and they haven't gone to IR in a couple weeks and then suddenly go to IR, which is really confusing to me. I feel like the Bears training staff or whoever's in charge of managing that situation did a really poorly inadequate job. And it's concerning because, this is someone who's young and he's still on his rookie contract. He was having a great season and it just unfortunately he got sidelined by that missed tackle basically by with Tommy Tremble against the Panthers. But again, like the coaching staff, I don't know what's going on with them. Like they haven't seemed to be doing anything right this season. And I'm really worried about Brisker. Like, obviously, I don't want to rush him back into playing, but it was also concerning because Brisker was able to go back in that game against the Panthers. Like, he was out and then he came back in. And if the concussion was that bad to the point where Brisker's been out for a while and he suddenly gets placed on IR today or on Thursday, it's weird to see that he was able to just go back in the game. So they've got to really work on that going forward. I don't know. I mean, obviously on the Bears part, but also on the NFL, like they can't just let people that have really serious head injuries go back in the game. But hopefully Brisker recovers. I hope he has a speedy recovery. And I just wanted to ask Eli, what are your thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, I'll start with Brisker just because that's kind of what the topic's on right now. I think I'm completely with you. I think moving forward, there really needs to be a heavy emphasis on, you know, this medical staff in particular. What are they doing that is not aiding their players in rehabilitation, because as you kind of mentioned, I can't think of any other situation in which a player was in concussion protocol for this long, aside from Tua, but he was placed on IR, I believe. I might be wrong about that off the top of my head, but uh, regardless, if that was the situation, then that's personally what I would have done if I were medical staff. Kind of, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, give the media and the fans more of a sense of what is going on with his injury in particular. Is it just a concussion? Is it precautionary because he has an injury history? Is it a brain bruise, from which several people have kind of hinted at? Maybe it's more than just a concussion, and we're just not getting the information. But yeah, I totally agree. The medical staff in general, that's something the Bears need to look at, whether it's right now or moving forward or in the off season. Definitely a point of emphasis there that they need to work on, and hopefully, a lot of people have mentioned maybe for Brisker moving forward. Personally, I at this point it's nearing end of season territory for him. I think uh, if he could be out for another 4 weeks, that would put him back technically week 15, 16, and in the thick of the difficult schedule, and probably not playing for a playoff spot. So at that point, probably just sit him for the rest of the year. And then, a lot of people have talked about him potentially retiring, which I don't think personally is on the table, but I don't know. Again, I don't know the extent of his injury. So, hopefully that's the case. We can get him back for next year. But I think it is a contract year for him next year. So it's already pointing to the signs of him having an injury history in this Bears secondary. And to kind of sum it up, it's just a terrible handling of it by this Bears organization overall. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the whole Brisker thing. In regards to some of the other stuff popping up on the injury report, I won't spend too much time on it, but it'll be great to have both of our tackles back if that is the case, if they're good to go. Obviously, Sweat's a big impact, and Daryl Taylor was limited, so getting him back would be huge. And another aspect is that Kyler Gordon wasn't on the injury report this week, so should be full go for him moving forward. So, do you guys have anything else regarding the injury report or Brisker moving forward before I get into Green Bay? All right, so we will move on to the Green Bay Packers again. Kind of just going through the important ones here. Jair limited, and then you've got Kenny Clark, Kingsley Mbare, Josh Jacobs, Elton Jenkins, and a few other names popping up here that were limited on Thursday for Green Bay. Jordan Love was a full participant in practice on Wednesday and Thursday. And a lot of people have talked about Marshawn Lloyd, their third string or fourth string running back, maybe getting a big opportunity to come back from injury this week for Green Bay. And then, again, several offensive linemen for them that were limited in practice this week. So, do any big names stick out to you this week? Joe, I'll start with you for the Green Bay Packers on that injury report.
I mean, the Jair injury, but like Jair seems to always be hurt, and he either will or won't play. Obviously, like I feel like most of the time he plays through injuries. There's a couple weeks where he'll like not play, but he's not playing this week after what he said about DJ Moore, which we'll talk about, and probably the next thing we'll talk about. But he's definitely playing. Uh, and I wouldn't be surprised if most of the line played. But even if they missed some players, they seem to know how to draft or find players that are good off the bench. So there's mine's still probably going to be uh, above average, even if they are missing some starters, which we can't say that about our own line, which sucks. Um, then Josh Jacobs, that'll be huge if he's gone. I don't, I doubt he will be, but if he is gone, that'll be huge because the Bears run defense, we've talked about it a lot. They suck, and without their best running back, they'll still be able to run on us, but I don't know if they'll be able to run as well. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on their injuries. How about you, Isaac?
Yeah, the one I want to highlight is Kenny Clark, and I feel like he's always been such a huge part of the Packers defense, and without him, we might have a chance on Sunday. I mean, I don't want to get my hopes up, but like you said, Joe, the Packers, I feel like most of those players on the injury report are probably gonna play on Sunday, so I don't want to get my hopes up too high, but Kenny Clark being the defensive tackle, basically one of the key pieces of the Packers defense, he is such a huge part on getting pressures and getting freeing up other pass rushers on the Packers, and that's part of the reason why they've had 24 sacks this season is because of Kenny Clark and with the Bears interior as bad as they are, if Kenny Clark were to play on Sunday, I feel like it would be another rough week for Caleb Williams to try to get time to throw the ball. But besides that, I'm not wishing for anyone to be injured and not play on Sunday. But to have any of those guys not play on Sunday would be a huge advantage for this Bears team that desperately needs some kind of positivity from the game, and they could get it with some of these players potentially out. And so I'll just toss it back to you, Eli, on this.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think Jair and Kenny are probably the top two, and all if Josh weren't able to go limited in on Wednesday and Thursday for the Bears, it'd be a huge boost for the Bears' chances on Sunday. But that's the Packers organization. They do a great job of drafting depth at multiple positions, especially offensive line, as you kind of mentioned, Joe. So I think regardless of who is good for Green Bay on Sunday, I think they'll be ready to go. You know, and we'll get into this conversation later, but it's been interesting the narrative between the Bears and Packers fan base this week because it's not the typical rivalry week. And again, we'll get into that later. But yeah, I think the top two for me are Jair and Kenny because Kenny is the nose tackle there that makes that defense run. And Jeff Hafley, their defensive coordinator, has got the secondary playing at a much better rate than it has in the past few seasons for Green Bay. You mentioned the name Joe Barry to any Packers fan, and they're going to shake their head. That guy was not great at his job, but he always seemed to got it figured out against Chicago, as usual is for Green Bay. But that secondary especially has been playing especially well, largely in fact to their addition of Xavier McKinney, who had a lot to say about Bears wide receiver DJ Moore this week. Isaac, I will kind of toss it to you. I know you wrote an article about this, and it's been reported all over Bears Twitter. Uh, can you kind of give everybody an introspection on what it is that Xavier McKinney had to say about DJ Moore and this Bears team this week?
Never say that. Sorry, give me a second.
Yeah, all good. You're good.
Okay, so this started off in the off season. So it was May 7th. They asked DJ Moore like, "Oh, what do you think about the Packers signing Xavier McKinney?" And they were also asking him a couple questions about like the Lions adding a couple of cornerbacks. And he just responded with like, "That's nice," like kind of like a subtle jab at him, at McKinney. And McKinney kind of took that personally, and he was like, they asked him this week, like, "Oh, do you think DJ Moore's gonna know who you are?" And he's like, "I hope so. I don't give a damn about what he knows, right?" But the thing that has got a lot of people talking about is this next quote that McKinney basically called out DJ Moore for leaving the play midfield that in that game against the Arizona Cardinals. I know most Bears fans have seen it and it's already been talked about a lot, but McKinney basically was saying like the dude walked out on his quarterback. I've been playing football for 5 years now, and I've been watching football for longer than that. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. You're supposed to be the guy, and you're just walking off the field. You're walking off the field on a rookie quarterback that you've been praising, so it's like a whole nother story. And then Moore kind of was like, no, like that wasn't the case. Like I injured my ankle. I was walking to the sideline. Like I wasn't gonna really do much anyways. And McKinney was like that's he's basically responded with cap, like that's cap, like meaning like that's like he's not, telling the truth. Um, but I want to ask you guys this, and I'll start by giving my thoughts on it. Do you think DJ Moore deserves the criticism for that McKinney was basically throwing at him? And in my opinion, I do think he deserves a little bit of it because like I understand like if you hurt your ankle, like you don't really want to try to do something that makes it even worse like during the play. But DJ Moore, like he got out that play and then he came back in right away. Like I don't know if it was a play after or a couple plays after. So I mean it like either way, like just walking out like that is a bad look. Like I'm not gonna deny that. As a non-biased, fan, I do think it's a bad look. Obviously, I'm gonna defend my guy and say like, he was hurt, he was gonna make a play and stuff like that. But it is again a bad look. Um, and McKinney also kind of has the right to say that because he's had a great season. He's the interception leader with I believe 6 picks. And it just kind of adds to the Bears Packers rivalry that we're gonna get into a little bit later. But I'll ask you, Joe, what are your thoughts on Xavier McKinney's comments on DJ Moore?
See, I don't disagree with them. I don't like that he said them about our guy, but I don't disagree with him. He shouldn't have left the field. I think I said this when we talked about it earlier. I I can't remember exactly, but I think I said, yeah, I'm not really okay with that. Um, I get it that he might have been hurt, or he says he was hurt, but Caleb Williams was getting chased down. I know that you were out of bounds, but you could came back in, reestablished. Maybe not call. You couldn't be the first. You can't like catch the ball, but you can at least take a defender away and hope and help. Hopefully, get someone else open on the scramble drill. Um, and we are paying. We just did extend DJ Moore, give him quite a big contract. So I see. I definitely agree with McKinney that he shouldn't have left the field, especially because, like you said, he came back the next play. But again, I don't like the fact that McKinney put our player on blast, and I hope that DJ uh can have a big game against the Packers this week. Uh, and maybe score on McKinney. Uh, but yeah, how about you, Eli?
Yeah, just for the record, 4 interceptions. It is a two-way tie between Kirby Joseph from Detroit and Xavier McKinney or Green Bay at 6 interceptions apiece. So, not good for our prospects, obviously, moving forward in this division. Um, but again, for the record, I was really hyped up on the Bears pursuing Xavier McKinney in free agency. I thought it would be just a perfect fit alongside Brisker. Um, Whatever your opinion on that, he's played extremely well for Green Bay at a position that they have struggled at in the last few seasons. But I do agree. Obviously, you got to defend your guy. DJ Moore, it seemed like in the moment he was injured and, just thought it would be better for him to go to the sideline off of that. And it is worth noting that, a Green Bay Packers player is probably not going to give the benefit of the doubt to a Chicago Bears player. Like that's just the way it is. That's the rivalry. Um, so it's hard to definitively say either way because I do agree he came back like the next play or the next series and was completely fine. Uh, but maybe in the moment, you don't know to an extent how serious a potential injury may be. So maybe that was just DJ Moore being precautious. Maybe there was more at play. Again, it's hard to definitively say what exactly happened, but it's bulletin board material as they call it for this week. So Joe, as you kind of mentioned, hopefully DJ Moore can just put it to bed and make this Packers secondary look silly this week. And we'll kind of get into this now. Uh, Maybe the Bears' new offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown, can help make that happen, as the Bears did fire Shane Waldron this week. I'll have your guys' opinion on this. Isaac, I'll start with you first. Do you think Thomas Brown this week can make an improvement on this Bears offense? And in what ways do you think that might happen? Do you think it'll take some time? Or again, do you think we can see an immediate impact this week?
So to answer your question, I do think he's gonna have an immediate impact, but it won't be a huge impact to the point where like the Bears offense looks completely different because it's just an impossible task to ask someone who wasn't the offensive coordinator to just certainly turn around a bad offense like mid-season. I do think he's gonna help because from what I've seen from his press conferences and the interviews and just how who he is as a coach. It seems like a lot of people like him and gravitate towards him. And he was basically, I like this quote that he said in, I don't know if it was an interview or a press conference, but he was saying like he wants to make practice as hard as it possibly can be so that the games are easier. And I feel like Shane Waldron was just not that kind of coach. And Keenan Allen basically commented on Shane being too nice of a guy, and that's probably that's like his reasoning to why he got fired. Like maybe he was too nice, and DJ Moore was saying like there was stuff that they wanted to do and they didn't do it right away. Like they did a drive late or they waited till halftime to make adjustments. But I don't think that's gonna be the case with Brown. I think Brown is gonna be the type of guy where he's like, all right, like this isn't working. Let's change it right now. Um, and it seems like he's gonna be able to be on the same page with Caleb Williams. Um, but the thing I want to mention is Caleb Williams hasn't thrown an interception in the last 3 games, and it sounds like a good thing, but it's really not. Like these like he has to be able to just throw the ball and like not be scared that he's gonna turn it over. And Matt Eberflus is essentially the guy that's telling him not to do it. Like he's telling him like, hey, like he's basically instilling in him like if you turn over the ball, that's like the worst thing in the world. Like you can't do that. But that's not the case. Like I feel like any other coach in the NFL would tell him like this is part of your development. Like you're a rookie, you're gonna make mistakes. Like go ahead and try it. Like we want you to throw the ball and throw it into tighter places, tighter areas, but it just hasn't been the case. And I don't know if Thomas Brown is gonna be able to go up to Matt Eberflus and tell him like, "Hey man, like this hasn't been working. Like let's let Caleb just throw the ball and not be worried about interceptions. If he throws interceptions, that's fine. We're 4-5. I don't think we're gonna have a good chance of making it to the playoffs at this point with how the Lions, Packers, and Vikings are playing. So let's just give Caleb some time to develop, right? Because he's a rookie. It's only been 9 games, and people have been saying like, "Oh, this guy's a bust." Like they've been saying that. I saw this stat where it's like he was like the 468th out of 468 on something, which is ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, like I don't think Thomas Brown is gonna make a crazy impact like right away. But I do think he's gonna make some changes and it's gonna show on Sunday and it's gonna be a positive thing for the Bears. But again, like we're playing the Packers team, they're really good, 6-3. Like I don't know if we're gonna have a chance to be able to completely do a 360 and just have a dominant performance on offense, especially against this Packers defense. But yeah, I mean, I hope as a Bears fan that Thomas Brown is able to turn things around. And I do think that this is the first step in the right direction for the team. So I'll toss it over to you, Joe, and your thoughts on this.
Yeah. The first thing I'll say is no coach is ever gonna say we don't have a shot at making the playoffs. They all believe, no matter what they're right, unless they're like a win 10 or like mathematically out, which the Bears are not. They all think they still have a shot at making the playoffs. That's just the way they have to work. In terms of if Thomas Brown will help the Bears offense, I'm a bit skeptical just because he was the passing game coordinator, which does, I mean, he had a little bit of say in what the Bears passing game did look like. I don't think he had a lot to say. That was again mainly Shane Waldron, sounds like. But he did have somewhat of a say of what the passing game did look like. So seeing that or like knowing that, it's hard to think that the Bears passing game will get a lot better. But Thomas Brown also did work under Sean McVay, and I heard this stat. So I'm sure you guys know uh like condensed sets are. Um every, it's basically having your receivers closer together than all spread out, which is what the Bears were doing. Everybody that's Sean McVay disciple or Sean McVay himself, they're in the top or the bottom 10 in the league of like how wide the information is. Shane Waldron, who was also a Sean McVay disciple, had the Bears ranked eighth in the most wide formations in the NFL this year. That's per next gen stats. Uh, so hopefully Thomas Brown can do a little bit more of the condensed sets because that does confuse defenses a little more. But I I'm skeptical on him because the he was the Panthers OC the last 6 games of last year, and yes, the Panthers don't have a lot of talent, so I don't know how much stock you or didn't have a lot of talent last year, so I don't know how much stock you can really put into that. But their offense didn't really do great. They had one good game against the Packers, so if you want any hope this week, you could put something into that, and maybe since he has better talent with the Bears, he'll actually be able to do more than he did with the Panthers. But I do agree with you on the interceptions thing, Isaac. I do think that Caleb needs to challenge downfield, but um, Eberflus doesn't want quarterbacks to throw interceptions. We saw it last year with Fields. We're seeing it again with Caleb. Now, maybe uh Thomas Brown, since he probably won't be here next year, you're just gonna tell Caleb, hey, don't listen to Flus. Do just throw it deep. I don't just throw it, just rip it. Rip and rip it. I don't care. Um he probably hopes he'll be here next year, but if he's realistic, I mean, Flus is probably going to get fired, and which means he won't be here. So hopefully he can just tell Caleb to grip and rip it. Now, I don't know if it's actually going to happen. We all hope it does, but it most likely won't. But still, I think that he can help us. But we'll see. Probably see a little bit more coherent routes this weekend. Uh, and like I said, hopefully more condensed sets to confuse the defense. But again, that kind of stuff, I don't think you can install that like in 1 week. That has to take some time. So, and we're already in the middle season, so I don't know how much of that we're gonna get in the for the rest of the year. But still, I think there's a shot. I'm not super optimistic this week. That they'll look a lot different. I want them to because I want them game to be competitive. I don't know if this week is going to be a lot different. What do you think, Eli?
Yeah, I'm completely with you guys. I think to expect an immediate improvement, like for them to just drop 30 points on Green Bay, I don't think it's going to happen. But I do think I agree with you, Joe. The route concepts should make more sense this week. Another aspect of this is that it was reported by Thomas Brown himself that when asked if he's going to call plays from the booth or be on the sideline, he will be up top. You know, I'm not in league circles or that kind of thing, and I've never been an NFL coach, but it's like just thinking about it logically, I think calling plays from the booth, you see a lot, you obviously see the larger formation and everybody moving around on the defense and how safeties drop and that kind of thing. So I think it should, just logically speaking, it should make this offense, function a little easier when you can kind of see through the first few series what a defensive game planning for your offense. So I do expect, as you said, Joe, the route concepts to improve this week. I don't know if it'll translate to points, but at the very least, it should at least make more sense looking at the Chicago Bears offense. We mentioned it earlier, getting the tackles back should help improve Caleb's time to throw, his accuracy this week. Uh, I don't think the Bears are going to drop 30 points this week, but at the very least, this offense should look like it's convincing us that it's on the right track moving forward. Uh, we can kind of get into this. Joe, you go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, one more thing. So we talked about the pass game with Thomas Brown. Uh, the run game should hopefully also look better. Apparently, Waldron and Chris Morgan had differences on what they wanted to do. So hopefully, uh, Brown and Morgan don't have as many differences, and the run game could, improve. It hasn't been good the past 3 weeks. It was good before the bye for those 3 weeks, and then it went back to being bad. So hopefully their run game concepts marry up well, and we can see DeAndre Swift kind of uh, go back to what he was doing weeks 4 through 6.
Yeah, I completely agree. Hopefully Thomas Brown taking over. You kind of mentioned it. It's kind of fallen off the last 2 to 3 weeks with the run game. But hopefully him bringing in, it's not going to be obviously not a completely different offensive philosophy. They're going to run a lot of the same stuff that they have been, but hopefully what he brings to the table doesn't kind of switch up what they've been doing in the run game. As I kind of mentioned, it wasn't there the last few weeks, but it was there in that 3 to 4 game stretch where the Bears offense was clicking. So hopefully what he brings doesn't disrupt this. So we can kind of move into, we've talked about Thomas Brown and what he brings to this offense. What can the Bears do on Sunday to kind of maybe give themselves a shot at a major upset against this Green Bay divisional rival team? We've been on a skid, and there would be no better cure than to at least give the Bears a sense of hope moving forward and maybe getting back to 500 if they were to upset the Green Bay Packers. So, Joe, I'll start with you. We've mentioned that this Packers defensive line, it's not incredible, but it is a talented unit. Their secondary has played at a high level this season. What do the Bears need to do offensively to maybe have a shot to beat this Packers team this week?
Yeah, I'll give Caleb easy answers. We've been talking about this. I feel like the whole season. Shane Waldron's offense didn't have a lot of easy answers for Caleb. A lot of the routes were deep. A lot of the receivers um routes were in the same areas, and but yeah. So but even when there were quick answers, Caleb wasn't taking them all the time, or they were off. So hopefully he gets the quick answers this week and he actually takes them. And hopefully Brown was coaching him harder this week in practice and to tell him what to take and what not to take. Um, Especially like the hots off of blitzes and stuff. It doesn't seem like he was understanding that a lot, especially last week with DJ Moore. So hopefully with Brown, with harder coaching, him and DJ Moore could get on the same page because we talked about it all year. They're not. Um, and hopefully that will make DJ not look look more motivated because obviously he hasn't looked totally motivated this year. And then, yeah, I mean, get Cole Kmet involved. We said it a lot this year. Uh, Last week he had 3 targets and 2 catches. They were all on one drive in the third quarter. Um, it was nice to see him get the ball. Then he didn't get the ball again. We were like, okay, well, that doesn't do anything. Um, so yeah, get Komet more involved. Hopefully, there'll be a little bit more uh like short stuff for Cole Komet with Thomas Brown. That gets him open. And then we just talked about the run, but get DeAndre Swift going, whether that's in the run game or the pass game. When he was having the good stretch, he was doing both, and it really helped the Bears offense. So if they can do those 3 things, they stand a shot. But yeah, I don't know if they'll do all those 3 things, but hopefully they do. What are your keys to victory for this Bears offense on Sunday, Isaac?
So basically everything you mentioned, I agree with. And then to go add on basically with Caleb Williams, like let's get this guy in more play action sets. Let's get this guy like running out and like literally going out and having receivers open for him. And the thing that bothered me was like the past couple games, the Bears would like pretty much always run it on first down. And teams knew this and we would get like maybe 2 yards at best. So we were essentially just throwing away a down. Let's not do that. And the other thing is like when they did throw the ball, it wasn't just like an easy 3 or 4 yard completion. It was like trying to go for the deep ball. Because on first down, a lot of teams like to do that, the deep ball opportunity. But I don't like that. I think on first down, let's get creative and let's get easy yards, maybe 5 to 6 yards on first down. So it could become a second and manageable. I think that's how a lot of teams win games, and the Bears haven't been doing that. And we've talked about this like throughout the whole season. Basically, like I don't even know if I want to turn on my TV for the first 10 minutes because I already know what's gonna happen on offense for the Bears. It's like 3 and out. They're gonna do the same thing. And finally, this week, I have some confidence that's gonna change because we have a new offensive coordinator. But another thing I would like to add is if I was like the coach, I would tell my team like, let's just play without any fear because I feel like the Bears have been kind of like in fear of like, okay, if we start going down and we start losing, we're not gonna be able to catch up, or we don't want to create any turnovers on offense and stuff like that. I think you know what, like, there's no expectations from fans. Like, we don't really expect the Bears to, make a deep playoff push at this point. Like it is what it is. We're 4-5, so I would just tell my team like you guys got to play a little loose than what you've been playing in the past. Like just go out there and have fun. Like obviously, I want to incorporate all the stuff that they've been teaching throughout the season. Like okay, let's work on this. Let's do that instead. But I feel like we're. I'm very hopeful. I feel like we're gonna see a different team on Sunday. I'm not saying that the Bears, like Eli mentioned, like are gonna put up 30 points or anything like that. But if they could just do a couple of the things that Joe mentioned, that I mentioned, and that Eli will mention right now, I'm pretty sure that it's gonna be a lot better on offense for the Bears. Which brings me over to your thoughts on this, Eli, on what the Bears can do to, look better than how they have in recent games.
Yeah, so I will say this. The Bears have struggled on third down this season heavily, and they've put themselves in multiple third and long situations. And that either ends up in a 10+ yard sack or, a turnover. And that's just not what we need to be doing, because we get into those situations where potentially we're in field goal range on third down, and then either the line doesn't hold up or Caleb tries to make too much happen. And again, he takes a 10 to 15 yard sack and we're out of field goal range. We have to punt it away. That needs to be the game plan. Avoid third and long situations this week. The Packers defense is going to key in on that. They know that the Bears have struggled on third down. So that's something we just need to somehow keep out of. If we get a positive gain on first down and it's 2nd and 5, don't try to make too much happen on second down. And also a major thing that hasn't really been talked about this season is the penalties. We get a positive gain on first down, it's 2nd and 5 or 2nd and 6. It looks promising, and then we get a false start penalty, and we're right back to where we started. And then it's an incomplete pass on second down, and we're looking at third and long, and every Bears fan knows what's going to happen. And then we punt it away. That cannot happen this week, because if we get down quick, this team is not built to win from behind, especially against a division rival like Green Bay. On the flip side, Green Bay has also struggled on third down this year. From what I remember looking at it, I believe they convert third down on 32% of the time. So put Green Bay in third and long situations. Jordan Love has struggled this season with turnovers, so if they get into 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, whatever, 3rd and 14, he's gonna throw it deep because that's the type of quarterback he is. And this secondary, even without Brisker, is talented enough to have turnovers, and so is theirs. So that's something we have to avoid as well. But force them into third and long situations. Make Jordan Love turn the ball over, and this game will be a lot closer than a lot of people think it's going to be. That's pretty well my main thing. Obviously, you have to get pressure on Jordan Love, force him to make mistakes. I think this game is dependent on how Jordan Love plays. Personally, I think the Bears defense is talented enough to make him have a bad game, and he's been on a rough stretch lately. That's in part due to injury, but also he's kind of playing reckless football. I think he's a great quarterback, but if you can force him into situations to where he has to throw deep, that's the main thing we have to do to him. And also, Green Bay is super talented when it comes to Matt LaFleur and scheming his wide receivers open, because you look at that unit, and yeah, it's got some talented players. Jaden Reed, the main one there. If I do have this pulled up, he is their main receiver this season, and he has a total of 620 receiving yards. That's more than anybody on the Bears with as talented as a unit that we have right now. Romeo Dobbs has also had a great season, and Tucker Kraft kind of came out of nowhere for them. So they also have weapons. It's just a matter of you look at the rosters, and arguably the Bears have more talent on paper, but we just don't know how to use our players, our personnel. And Matt LaFleur is a genius when it comes to those route concepts that we always talk about. That guy can scheme anyone open. He could scheme 50-year-old Jerry Rice open if he were on the team. That's just the kind of the play caller that Matt LaFleur is. So he is going to attack this zone defense, and there are going to be moments in this game to where you're like, who is covering this guy? He's wide open. He knows how to attack the space. So that's just something that we're gonna have to live and die on, since we run a zone defense. Bend, don't break. So our red zone defense is going to be a key part of this too. I'll kind of shut up because I've been spewing, but that's kind of my thoughts on this matchup moving forward. Do you guys have anything else when it comes to this Bears Packers key to victory?
Yeah, the defensive thing that you mentioned, I agree. Uh, Get turnovers off Jordan Love. I do want to. You say he's reckless with the football. Yeah, you can see it like that, but he also thinks he can make any play on the field, and so does Matt LaFleur. So that's kind of why he's that way with the football. It's like any other fan, even sometimes Packers fans are like, "Why are you throwing that ball?" But it's because he thinks he can make the play. That's kind of what I mean. I'm kind of too young to really know why I never really watched Brett Favre, but that's kind of what he did too. That's what Josh Allen was doing until this year, where he hasn't really thrown a bunch of interceptions. I think I know we're not a Bills podcast, but I think over the past couple of weeks he's thrown a couple more interceptions, but he's really not been throwing interceptions this year because A, they're running the ball, and B, he's not trying to push which is what Jordan Love's trying to do, is push and make plays to help his team win. And um, yeah, so he will have a couple opportunities for us to intercept the ball. I think I think Jalen Johnson especially wants to get a pick off of him, and he wants to win this game, because he has been with the Bears. Well, he hasn't beat the Packers as a Bear. He's 0-10 against the Packers as a Bear, or 0-8. Um, yeah, I think it's 0-8. We haven't won in 10 games, but I don't think he was here for the other two. Um, when the losers started, but yeah, so get those turnovers off of Jordan Love, and then yeah, that's I kind of just want to agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think reckless was probably the wrong word to use there. He is that gunslinger type of quarterback. So you can make that argument for any type, like you kind of mentioned, Josh Allen and Brett Favre. Those are two guys that will push the ball downfield because they believe they can make that pass. So I totally agree. I don't think, I don't think Jordan Love is making the Will Levis type of throws to where it's just chuck it down there and hope something happens. He knows where he can go with the football, so I completely agree with you. He is that type of quarterback. But with that being said, you guys have anything else with the key to victories for the Chicago Bears this week? All right. So something I kind of wanted to briefly talk about that I kind of found interesting this week on Bears Twitter. In recent years, it's the same old story that we've always had. Bears fans usually they talk crap to the Packers all week on Bears Twitter. They think this is the game to where we're going to turn the tide, and that kind of thing. But this week we've been very quiet on Twitter, and it seems like the Bears fan base, most of us believe that we're going to get blown out, and this is going to be just an embarrassing loss, and we're going to keep this snowball avalanche as we've kind of been on. And then on the flip side, there have been several members of Packers Twitter that don't have a good feeling about this game. Brody in particular, he's a great member of Packers Twitter, always good to interact with. But he specifically said that he thinks this is a trap game and that the Packers always struggle coming out of the bye week. So I wanted to get your guys' brief thoughts on this. Isaac, we kind of talked about it beforehand, but what do you think what's your mindset headed into Sunday when it comes to that whole conversation?
Yeah, like you mentioned, I feel like when the Bears don't have any expectations, that's when they could kind of surprise you. Um, but on the other end, like I do get why Packers fans are nervous because they were talking about basically like the Packers aren't very good out of the bye week. And even if it's the Bears and we haven't won in the past 10 games, like I could see why they're a little nervous. Um, Especially playing with a team that has nothing to lose like the Bears. It could be concerning, but for Bears fans, like I feel like everyone's just been so like out of energy from everything that's been happening, from the firings and all the dramatic losses that we've had recently. I feel like there's just not a lot of hope right now, and a lot of Bears fans are like what is there to talk crap on about? Like there's nothing. Like a lot of Bears fans are kind of getting their sanity back. They're like, you know what? Like we're probably not gonna win. At this point, we're just hoping that Caleb Williams starts developing again and it's not going in the wrong direction. But yeah, that's basically like what I think about. And the thing about this week is like I feel like the players are gonna have more like animosity towards each other because especially with the thing that Xavier McKinney was talking about DJ Moore, and then Jalen Johnson was commenting on how Jordan Love has like 10 interceptions this season, and he's like, oh, hopefully he gets one on Sunday against us. And Jair, he's always a big talker, and I know he's always talking crap about the Bears, and you could have your opinions on Jair, but. I think this is more like a players rivalry on Sunday than a fan rivalry. But I wanted to ask Joe, what are your thoughts on this Bears Packers rivalry on Sunday?
I mean, I agree with you saying it's more of a players thing right now than it is a fan thing because we've lost 10 in a row. We still talk, we still usually talk, but we don't really have a right to talk, and it's really not a rivalry in terms of like recent history. It what used to be a rivalry, but it ain't really one anymore. It's not until you win. The Bears haven't done that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I understand why Packers fans are skittish. Like they haven't won, they're not good out of the bye week. Bears aren't either. Um, the, in recent history, I mean, I think they won last year out of the bye, but under Flus, they're 1-2 out of the bye. But uh, yeah, I think they have every right to be afraid. I don't think there's any chance the Packers lose this game. Because I just don't think the Bears will uh really pose a huge threat on offense, even Thomas Brown's with Thomas Brown becoming the OC just because it's his first game as a Bears OC. I don't know if it's gonna really change a lot a lot in the first game. But yeah, I'm a little surprised that there hasn't been more talking because we've said there usually is, but I understand why there hasn't been. I'll pass it back to you, Eli.
All right. So one more quick thing before we get into score predictions, just very briefly. It was reported earlier in this week that, there were several veteran players who requested that maybe the Bears make a quarterback change in favor of Tyson Bagent. But then it was also a rumor came out that Tyson Bagent's dad, of all people, was the one to put those rumors into the air and potentially maybe affect something, whether it be him. It was reported that he kind of leaked that information to several Bears media outlets and radio personalities and that kind of thing. And again, then it was blah blah blah. There was a whole, you know, conspiracy around it. So just very quickly, I want to ask you guys if you have any input as to whether or not it's true or not that Tyson Bagent's dad was the one involved, or if it was the players in general. And again, another little tidbit: Benjamin Albright, a Denver Broncos insider, did comment on this, and he said it tracks with what he has heard from that Bears locker room regarding Tyson Bagent's dad. So Isaac, just very quickly, what is your kind of take on this whole situation?
So you asked if I believe it. I can believe it because you and I were talking earlier and basically saying like his dad, Tyson Bagent's dad, is kind of like a outgoing personality type of person. Um, and I don't understand why he would even think this would like help his kid get some playing time because it's not like it's obviously going to be shut down at some point. And if you're gonna lie about this stuff, like you have to be a little better about it. I don't know. I feel like it's all gonna come back to you at some point, and it came back faster than what Tyson Bagent's dad probably expected. And I don't like it at all. Like I don't think that's fair to Caleb Williams at all, and I don't think it's fair to your kid either. Like I'm pretty sure Tyson wouldn't want his dad to be saying that stuff about his teammate. And there's probably like some arguments going on in that household with Tyson and his dad, but there's a couple Bears fans saying like, "Oh, let's just trade him." I don't think that's the case. Like that wasn't something that Tyson did. It was his dad. I do think he's a good quarterback. However, I did like at this point, I kind of wish that there was a veteran quarterback in the locker room, like a Joe Flacco or Tyrod Taylor, to kind of help Caleb and Tyson at this point. But yeah, it's unfortunate. It's just adding to the whole mess. And I feel like every year we have a week where just a bunch of stuff comes out. It was like last year it was with Alan Williams, the defensive coordinator, and all the scandals and stuff like that. And it was just a really a mess and people stealing stuff from the Bear Stadium and stuff like that. And this week happens to be the week, of course, right before the Packers game. But yeah, those are my thoughts. And I'll toss it over to you, Joe, on your thoughts on this.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I hope it isn't true just because it's a bad look for Travis. Like, I just think you shouldn't be saying that, coming up with lies. I get that you want to see your kid play and start, because who wouldn't want to see their son start in the NFL? But we can't be doing that because that could potentially destroy a locker room and also ruin your son's credibility. Um, so yeah, it's just a bad look for Travis if it's true. Uh, I hope it isn't true, but also I don't see, I don't really know if I see any of the Bears players saying that stuff because I know that DJ has had his issues with connecting with Caleb, but I don't think any of the starters at least would say that. I mean, there's always going to be people in the locker room that want the backup to play just because they want backup to play. There's no other way to put it. That's just how it works in NFL. Not everyone in the 53-man locker room is going to agree with who is starting. But I don't think it was any of our. I don't really believe that any of our starters would say that. Like 5% of me maybe DJ Moore, but 95% of me believes that DJ Moore, even if he's not connecting with Caleb Williams, wants Caleb to start because he knows Caleb can be something special. They just need to figure it out. But yeah, not a good look for Travis. I'll pass it back over to you, Eli.
Yeah, I personally think just in regards to everything that's happened with the Bears over the last few years, I think it would be more likely that the whole Travis Bagent story is true, just because that seems to be par for the course for Chicago. So that's my kind of my take on it. But uh, we will transition into our score predictions for the Bears game and the NFC North. I will start it off. I've said it all week. This just feels like another week to where um, we get some new hope with Thomas Brown. We think maybe this will be the week that we kind of switch it up and catch the Packers coming out of the bye, but I don't think we win this game. I think it'll be closer than what people expect, but I am going to go Green Bay 28, Bears 17. I don't think we're going to win this game. Bears 28, Packers 17. Excuse me. No, Packers 28, Bears 17. Joe, your score prediction for this Bears matchup?
Yeah, I agree. I don't see the Bears winning this game. I didn't see the Bears winning this game before they made the change. I don't see them winning the game afterwards. Uh, I'll say, do I want to be optimistic and go low, or do I want them to blow us out and hopefully they fire flutes that way? Um, I'll say 24-17, just because I um don't think they're gonna get 50 burger like everyone else seems to. But I don't think it's a 7 point game going into the fourth quarter. I think they score late and make it look closer than it really was. How about you, Isaac?
Yeah, it's really hard for me to be optimistic about this game. Like, it's just all the signs are pointing towards another Bears loss. And I really thought this season was going to be the season that we finally win one against the Packers, at least one. But I don't think it's going to be this season. So I have the Bears losing 15 to 27. I wish it was closer. I wish the Bears could score a little bit more, but I just don't see everything clicking on offense right away.
Yeah, we're kind of all on the same page. It's rare for Bears fans to be reasonable about a Packers game, but that's where we're at. We're 4-5, and it doesn't seem to look like it's going to improve anytime soon. But hopefully that's not the case, and we pull a major upset against Green Bay, depending on how you look at it. We will move forward into the NFC North. Jaguars, Lions. It was reported once again, I believe, that Trevor Lawrence will not play this week. So Mac Jones will be manning the ship for the Jaguars. I think personally, Detroit will still win this game, but I feel like it's going to be a week where it's closer than expected. I think the Jaguars have kind of played some teams close this week. So give me another similar score to what this Bears Packers game is going to be. Give me Lions 28, Bears. I'm all over the place. Jaguar. Wow. Okay. Detroit 28, Jaguars 17. Isaac, what about you?
No, yeah, I totally agree with you. And the Jags were supposed to win last week against the Vikings, and they didn't, unfortunately. But I mean, Detroit's just too good of a team, and Jacksonville without Trevor Lawrence playing, like it's gonna be a Lions win. I would probably say maybe like 27-13, Detroit. And toss it over to you, Joe. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I don't think the Jaguars stood a chance even with Trevor Lawrence. The Lions last week won the game, even though Jared Goff threw five interceptions. But he's not going to do that again this week, especially because the Jaguars defense is not good at all. Um, so I will go the Lions 35 and Jacksonville 14. Mac Jones sucks. He's not going to score more than 20 points.
I like it.
That's
Sounds good to me. Yeah, we're not going to see another Jared goofball appearance, I don't think, for a while, but we'll move forward into this Vikings Titans matchup. This is a weird one to me because the Titans are they have not played well in recent weeks. Uh, but they are kind of a salty team at times. And I think this is a week to where another one that should just be a gimme for the Vikings uh, is closer than expected. I'm still going to take Minnesota just because the Titans are a train wreck right now. So give me Vikings 24, Titans 10. I'll give it a 14-point swing for Minnesota. Joe, what about you for this one?
If Darnold plays like he did last week, the Titans win just because I think they could do a little bit more than the Jaguars. I mean, I know Will Levis isn't that good, but since DeAndre Hopkins left, Calvin Ridley has taken off for some reason. I don't really understand how that happens when you lose someone that's supposed to be your partner in crime, and then you somehow have 100-yard games back to back, or at least over 50, which I don't think he did at all, or a lot, or even at all when yet D Hop was there. So but I don't think Darnold's going to play like he did last week. I think the Vikings win this game, and I think the defense probably plays a lot better. And well, they didn't play bad last week, but I think the defense plays well, and they sag Will Levis a bunch. I'll go 20, 24-10. How about you, Isaac?
Wow, everyone's been on the same page today. I like it. I'm gonna have to end that though, because I have a weird feeling about this game. I do think Tennessee is kind of trending a little bit upward, and the Vikings are kind of almost at that point of where it's just kind of like, oh, are these guys frauds? Um, I do think that the Vikings almost losing to the Jaguars is not just a fluke. I do think that the Vikings might be in a place where they just lose a game that they're supposed to win. And for Tennessee, it's like a lot of Titans fans don't want the Titans to win because they want that top, 3 draft pick for Cam Ward or Shador Sanders. But for some reason, I just feel like the Titans might be able to pull this one off. And so I'm gonna say Titans 13, Vikings. No, Titans 17, Vikings 13.
I do like that just simply because I think, right now on paper, everyone knows that Detroit is just leagues ahead of Minnesota right now. But in the division, it's only a 1 game difference right now. And at some point, Detroit will distance themselves from the rest of the North. And this might be the week that it happens. If Detroit can improve to 9-1, and for Minnesota to fall to 7-3, that would kind of set in stone that Detroit's going to win this division. But you never know what's going to happen. But I do like that. This kind of seems like an interesting game for the Vikings. But with that being said, do you guys have anything else when it comes to any NFC North matchups or this kind of penciled in loss that we kind of expect against the Green Bay Packers this week? All right. So with that being said, that's going to wrap it up here on the Bear Down Buzz podcast. Not very optimistic this week, but you never know. Maybe we will see you again after a victory against the Green Bay Packers. We can only hope, but that's not the expectation here. As always, kind of, keep up with us on social media. Check out our shorts, retweet everything that these guys produce on Twitter. They write excellent articles, so be sure to follow along with that. But again, check us out on social media, subscribe, do everything to help us out. We would greatly appreciate it. But once again, this has been the Bear Down Buzz podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.